Please give a round of applause for Leah Bell.
There we are. Thank you. Hello. This is the slimmest fist audience I have seen in a long time, so looks like we all need to invite our closest friends so they know that this amazing event occurs. And I do thank you to the FIST board for putting on this incredible event for 10 years. In all honesty, I truly hope that I have performed more odd jobs than anyone out there. If you are someone who's been owning the gig economy of today or knows about the hustle and flow of yesterday like yours truly, well, that's me, folks, since the 3rd grade. Slinging newspaper routes on my bike, selling graveyard flowers turned potpourri door to door out of a little red wagon. It was the American dream. And let's be clear, I'm not saying I'm the queen of odd jobs everywhere. What I'm saying is that of all of my friends, I go as far as to say that I am the queen of odd jobs. Unfortunately, I don't have time to list the countless jobs and odd jobs that I have been paid to do over the past 3 decades plus. But yes, I have seriously run the gambit of odd jobs. Of course, there's cleaning toilets to being a nude model for artists and art students for 7 years. I like to think of myself as a work of art. Ow! That's right. As a performance artist, I've been paid to be a silver statue mime while also making tips by the audience to perform this very silly, though entertaining shtick. I've, in fact, run away with the circus a couple times, including the year I spent traveling from Vermont to California in a vegetable oil-powered school bus that my friends and I built after we made $2,000 producing a vaudevillian-type masquerade ball with contortionists and trapeze artists. Bread and Puppet were our special guests. And after that tour, I worked in market research for 6 months before I became an editor and project manager of the Earth First Journal for 6 years. And let me assure you that during that time, all sorts of odd things transpired, which one could imagine when your job entails training and performing nonviolent direct actions to try and prevent environmentally destructive damage to the planet and critical habitats, and potentially people's homes or their drinking water. You know, think Gandhi and Greenpeace. Performing and training others how to safely plan and execute direct actions as a form of nonviolent resistance was both a paid and unpaid job I held for almost 10 years. In fact, after orchestrating a road blockade at a coal-burning power plant in Tampa during the Republican National Convention in 2012, I was then hired by the stagehand union to de-rig the convention center where the RNC was held. And most recently, as in this year, I worked at the Arizona Renaissance Festival making and selling chocolate. And one time during Mardi Gras, I worked at 2 restaurants for 12 days straight and then flew to Mexico City to volunteer with a humanitarian group. However, folks, to be transparent, I do have a degree that has scored me, so many, jobs. But I have had a couple of career jobs in my time in esteemed positions. Oh, the places I have been. But tonight, dear and new friends, I'm going to focus on one odd job that I have been paid to do on and off for the past 16 years, and that job is a pet sitter. In my time as a pet sitter, people's beloved animals generally came to my house. Rarely would I go to someone else's house and stay there. However, I've done a few gigs like that as well. Also, generally speaking, I have watched more dogs than any other animals, even though I have mostly been paid to watch over dogs and, of course, make sure they don't die on my dime while their owners are out of town. It is by far the cats that I have watched that are the most memorable. However, again, due to a time restraint, I will now direct all of our attention to Debbie and Enzo, the main characters in this particular story. Debbie and Enzo were two cats that belonged to an older gentleman that I met through the creative arts community here in Tucson. In 2020, before he was getting ready to move from Tucson to Mexico, he was looking for someone to cat sit for him until he was settled. He paid me $400 up front and said he'd pay for expenses as they arose. I was living in an adorable one-bedroom casita near La Madera Park at the time. The cats were used to being indoors, plus they had a climbing cat tree. They loved it. They seemed fairly content. And as time passed, the man continued to pay me to take care of the cats, which turned out to be 10 months altogether. In those 10 months, while also working full-time, I packed up the adorable one-bedroom casita, moved all belongings of mine and my partner at the time into a small two-bedroom, 6-month rental. Then, while house shopping and living at the 6-month rental, I then moved all our belongings and the cats for the 3rd time into our new home. You see, originally, the owner planned to move to some part of Mexico, but he later decided against it. However, when his plan was in effect, the owner bought 2 plane tickets for my ex and I. The plan was to bring the cats to him. Our plane tickets were for Cancun, and from there we took a taxi to Tulum, where the owner was renting a spacious, fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment. The owner, an odd fella, was writing his 4th book during our visit. He was busy, too busy to show us around Tulum. That didn't matter. The trip was incredible. Every day was a gift. And on March 1st, 2021, my 40th birthday, my ex and I hiked to Mayan ruins and swam in cenotes. We ate dinner on the beach to the sounds of live music and the luscious song of the ocean. Even though the owner was unable to spend much time with us, he sent me $1,000 ahead of the trip for taxis and spending money. This was in addition to the flights and accommodation that was paid for. And spoiler alert, the cats didn't come with us. I actually had to pay someone to cat sit for me. The owner decided shortly before the trip that he wasn't going to move to Mexico. He said he would not be able to handle the mosquito season. And if it's not clear, this was a great gig until I had to prepare the cats to move to Maui. And if you're not aware, let me be the first to inform you that it takes about 6 months to move cats to Hawaii. Why, you ask? I know. I knew you would be curious. And well, it's because on the Hawaiian Islands, there is no rabies. And therefore, we must all work together to prevent rabies from entering the islands. This is a good cause. And I will spare you all the details of the pet visits and bringing the cats to the airport to fly to Maui on their own without me, because that part of the story is sad and a little boring. What I will leave you beautiful people with is the true icing on the cake of this story, which snaggadoodles one more odd twist. Sometime after the cats moved to Hawaii and were reunited with their owner, I received a message asking if I was available to fly to Maui with specific dates included. I kid you not. That morning, I got an email from Southwest Airlines offering reduced flights to Maui. And for the first time in my life, I was thinking that morning how nice it would be to fly to Maui. This was in May of 2022. I was now working part-time at a flower shop. My manager said it would be fine if I took a couple of days off, and the trip was booked right away. When I arrived in Maui, there was a perfect flower lei on the concrete bench on the ruggedly simple airport. I proudly placed the sweet score around my neck and took a selfie. I was in town to cat sit with my own house and my own car for island adventures for an entire week. Another expense-paid vacation, all in the name of beloved fur friends. Don't count the days, folks. Make the days count. Hawaiian flower leis represent love and respect. Even odd jobs can bring you to some of the most beautiful places in the world.